Hello, book lovers, and welcome to Book Talk Radio Club. My name is Claire Perkins, and today I'm talking to award-winning author Robert Emery, who writes under the pen name of R.J. Eastwood. Robert is the author of The Autopsy of Planet Earth, Book Talk Radio Club's Book of the Year 2018, Diary of Diaries, Trump's Tweets That Gives Us the Runs, and Midnight Black, The Purge. Today we're going to talk about why he decided to update and expand Midnight Black: The Purge, a thriller suspense novel that has been favourably compared to Lee Child novels. Hi Robert, first of all welcome and thank you for coming back to talk to me on Book Talk Radio Club.
Thank you so much. It's good to be with you again.
Thank you. Robert, would you like to give Book Talk Radio Club's listeners a brief synopsis of Midnight Black: The Purge as it was prior to the update and expansion?
Yes, first of all, the premise of the book and the characters don't change.
Right.
The premise of the original book was that near-future society was paying dearly for the terrible mistakes made by previous societies.
Right.
And so that was the premise, and that hasn't changed, except that I revised and expanded it.
So I have to ask, of course, what made you decide to do this?
Well, Claire, the original book was written and published prior to the campaign of 2015 and the election of 2016, followed by the pandemic and the Black Lives Matter movement and other things that were happening in the world. And I thought, well, this kind of outdates my first attempt at this book. These things have to now be brought in so that the book has validity. And so I said, okay, I'm going to give it a try.
So
and I spent 2.5 years updating it, bringing in to the book the events that I just spoke of, plus some others. And, because the pandemic spread across the world, it wasn't just an American problem, and it continues to be a world problem.
Sure.
And it also gave me a chance to expand some other areas of the book. I think I expanded it by some 65 pages.
Okay, so what have you actually added to the book then?
I'm sorry, what?
So what have you actually added to the book then?
Well, I added, of course, the polarization of American politics and leading into the pandemic and the Black Lives Matter movement and so many other things that were going on outside of America that were affecting the world in some cases in similar ways. And it gave me a chance to also clarify, and I don't want to give too much away, it gave me a chance to clarify a little more about why this future society had reached the stage that it did.
Right.
And why my protagonist was dealing with it. I mean, after all, this is not a nonfiction book. This whole thing is seen through the eyes of an individual.
And now it's just called Midnight Black. Why did you leave the Purge part of the title?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and I don't think I played the cards right there. I wanted to separate the two books. First of all, the Midnight Black: The Purge is out of print.
Right.
I didn't want any confusion, so I dropped The Purge. Unfortunately, you get into some of these websites like Goodreads, Amazon, and you try to get your old book off, and it's like impossible. So there will be some confusion, except that there's a great big effort to distinguish the two in our upcoming PR. But it is difficult. Lisa Orban, my publisher at United Publishing, or Indies United, we went crazy trying to convince these sites that this thing is out of print. You can't sell it anyway. Take it down. Just go with the new one. But we do not rule our own lives when it comes to the Amazons of this world.
That's very true. Very true. As I mentioned during the introduction, Midnight Black: The Purge has been compared favourably with the writing of Lee Child. In fact, a reviewer said that your character Billy Russell is even better than Jack Reacher. Well, that's a compliment. What would you say to that comparison?
When I read that, I was stunned because I'm a big fan of Lee Child.
Right.
Read all of the Reacher books, and trust me, I'm not better than Lee Child. But it was such a nice thing for the reviewer to say.
Sure.
Emery, the reviewer, and I can't remember who wrote it, but they obviously were familiar, as I was, with the Jack Reacher stories. So they chose to write that. I'm terribly flattered.
Where does the character of Billy Russell come from? Was he inspired by another fictitious character?
Interesting question. This book, I used to write and direct motion pictures in another life many years ago. And one of the screenplays that I had written was this book or screenplay that did not get made into a movie.
Right.
Sitting in my computer. And one day I came across it and I thought, I think I'm going to, because I had already written The Autopsy of Planet Earth, which was also based on an unproduced motion picture. And I saw this and I said, if I thought so much of it to write a movie, why don't I try taking this even further than a screenplay allows and writing a book? So that's how the book was born.
Right.
Now, it no longer bears any resemblance to the screenplay because, as a writer yourself, you know how things happen. You flesh it out. It's longer. You change characters. You add characters. The premise is kind of close to what I had written. But there it is. I mean, it was a screenplay that didn't get produced, and I took it upon myself to turn it into a novel.
Midnight Black: The Purge is labelled as a thriller suspense novel, but I definitely think that it has shades of a dystopian novel about it too, don't you?
It has shades of what?
A dystopian novel.
Oh, yeah, well, definitely. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't end up dystopian. And again, I don't want to give too much away. But yes, of course it does. It does. I mean, it's a failure of society. It's a failure of society, a society that's not paying attention, a society that's, living the high life in most of the world or a better part of the world. And, we forget where we came from and we forget how we need to protect that lifestyle. And then, of course, the story goes on to tell what happens when we do.
You released Midnight Black: The Purge as an audiobook. Will you be doing the same for the new edition? I mean, personally, I love audiobooks. I find it very relaxing to listen to someone telling me a story.
In fact, wonderful question. I just approved all the tracks.
Okay.
And in about a week, it'll be submitted to the distribution company and should be out in a couple of weeks as an extended version of the original.
So the answer to that would be yes.
Oh, yeah. And the first audiobook has also been obviously taken off the market.
You received some wonderful reviews even before Midnight Black: The Purge had been released. Perhaps you could explain to would-be authors the benefits of pre-publication reviews.
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I think, first of all, reviews are very, very important to any writer. When people, statistics say, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I've read is that when people say they go to Amazon and they see a book they think they like, they're very likely to check out all the reviews and see what others think. And if the reviews are not good, well, the chances of you selling that book is not going to be very good. But if the reviews are good, and that person has an interest in that genre, you've got a better chance, don't you?
Absolutely, 100%, 100%. Have you offered the updated edition to beta readers before it goes to publication later this month as well? Then
Did I
Did you offer the?
subject.
That's right. I'll repeat that. Don't worry. Did you offer the updated edition to beta readers before it goes to publication later this month as well? Then.
No, no, I didn't. I was so busy trying to get this thing out, and no, I didn't. I mean, I've had some people read it,
Hmm.
but there are people who know me and know my work. Um, I don't know. I've never been into the beta readers. I'm going to say this and probably get criticized for it, but everybody has an opinion, and I think if an author spends enough time and writes what they really want to write, short of having it edited professionally, I don't think you need a lot of input. That's just me.
You've written a number of books in different genres. Do you find it easy or difficult to switch between them?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I don't think so. I wrote four um, non-fictions based on a television series that I had produced that I had been asked to write some books on,
Mm.
and that was four. And then I wrote the Diarrhea Diaries, which was an accumulation of 480 Trump tweets, carefully selected.
I'm surprised you didn't go mad doing that.
Yeah. So those are the only. Now I have some other non-fictions, um, but I don't know. Right now I'm deeply involved in another one, um, another novel.
Okay.
I should point out. So
I understand in your writing process that you start off with an image of the front cover even before you started to write, as you feel it inspires you. Have you done this with every one of your books?
that's funny. You should ask me. I have, and the reason for that is because I was in the motion picture and television production businesses, and it's visual.
Right.
So I'm a visual person.
Mm.
And I don't know. I just say to myself, get an image of in your head. What would this book cover look like?
Sure.
And in fact, what would the cover say?
Mm.
If someone's just looking at it,
Yeah.
what does it tell them?
You write under the pen name of R.J. Eastwood. Why did you decide to write under a pen name?
Well, I've often wondered myself, but I started off with those four nonfiction books based on my television series, The Directors, which I had produced for Stars Encore. I
Mm.
did 91 one-hour episodes, if you can believe that. And so that was my first writing after I retired from production. And then I started writing The Autopsy of Planet Earth, and I thought, well, I don't know, I want to separate my fiction from my nonfiction, so I made the decision. I have to tell you, I regret it.
Right.
It's just confusing sometimes. Now, R.J. Eastwood, R.J.E., those are my initials, Robert J. Emery.
Your books are winning awards. Congratulations. In the Realm of Eden was a finalist in the Next Generation Indie Awards, and The Autopsy of Planet Earth won Book of the Year 2018 at Book Talk Radio Club's Awards, one of my favourites, by the way. A Reader's Favourite Award and a Novel of Excellence from the Author's Circle. Wonderful, of course, but just how important are these awards to you, Robert?
Well, they're very important. I mean, I think it says something about your work.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing too is I think it goes back to your question about reviews. When a reader is going to choose a book in a particular genre and they come across your book and they see that you've won awards, I think it's just that one step further that helps them. And isn't it in the end, if we can't sell books, why write? So you do whatever, and awards and reviews can help.
Prior to retiring, you were a film and TV writer and director, as you said, and of course a scriptwriter. How different is script writing from writing a novel?
Oh, my goodness. Night and day. It was a bit, when I have to back up. I told you I started working on Autopsy, and I didn't. The first book I wrote was In the Realm of Eden, which was a forerunner of Autopsy. But Autopsy got expanded. It is, I don't know how to explain explain it. A screenplay, for those who haven't written them, is 120, 130 pages.
Okay.
And you don't get to do all the details. You set a location,
Mm.
kind of set a mood, time of day, and then the rest is, then you write a lot of dialogue, and the rest is left up to the director and the actors to flesh it all out and make a movie. So when you sit down and you're going to write a novel, now all of a sudden you have to paint those pictures on paper.
Yes.
Or on the written word. And that was a bit of a learning curve, because I have to tell you, when I wrote In the Realm of Eden, I think the first two chapters read like a screenplay. I think it was my wife who said to me, "This reads, you're writing in shorthand, but people can't see it." And that was a turning point. So I just went back and said, "Why don't you just tell them what color their eyes were and their hair and what shoes they had?" You know what I'm talking about.
Sure.
And
so I mean,
it was a learning curve, and I think I learned it pretty quick, because I'm a talkative guy.
As a successful award-winning author, what advice would you give to someone deciding to write a book?
Well, first of all, I think anybody that thinks they want to write a book should. I'll tell you another very difficult lesson that I had to learn. I had a tendency to want to make every line, every paragraph, every page perfect before I moved on. And, I had to learn real quick, don't do that. Get the story done. Just write. Don't worry if it's good, bad, or indifferent. Jenny Rosenblum, who has edited my last two books, she kind of made that point to me. And so I had to learn to just get on with it and then go back. Claire, there isn't a day that I don't go back to what I did yesterday and change something. But the reason I changed something is because I had an opportunity to think about it.
Sure.
Think of what I want. I just finished watching 4 nights of PBS, the Ken Burns documentary on Hemingway.
Right.
And, he agonized over every line, and he tried to get it down to its simplicity. Now, for me, Hemingway was a little too simplistic at times. But I think that a lot of consideration has to give to what it is you're trying to say, and how lean can you say it and still entertain the reader. I'm not Shakespeare. I don't intend to try to be Shakespeare, nor should anybody who has never written but wants to write. Find your own voice. Find your own voice and write the way you want.
Absolutely.
That's my advice.
Finally, where can Book Talk Radio Club listeners purchase Midnight Black and, of course, your other books?
Where can you purchase it, did you say?
Yes, but can you purchase Midnight Black and all your other books?
Everywhere. Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, just about any site that sells books. I'm very fortunate, Lisa Orban, who is my publisher, makes sure that the book is available just about everywhere.
Fantastic. All right, well, thank you, Robert. Please come back on Book Talk Radio Club again. I'd love to chat with you and hear more. In the meantime, good luck for the future, and thank you, everyone, for listening to Book Talk Radio Club. Thanks very much, Robert.
Thank you.
Nice to speak to you again.